On February 17th, the Travis County Grand Jury, under the direction of District Attorney Jose Garza, indicted 19 officers for aggravated assault by a public servant. These charges, they're all first-degree felonies with a range of punishment of 5 to 99 years or life in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. The officers, they're on a paid administrative leave while their cases are pending. I'm Jason English. I'm a former prosecutor who represents good people facing criminal and drunk driving charges. I was an assistant DA from 2002 to 2017, leaving the Travis County DA's office in 2017. During that time, I spent over 7 years assigned to the Austin Police Department. With me today is Laurie Drymalla, my co-counsel. Like myself, Laurie is also a veteran of the DA's office and has over 20 years of prosecutorial experience. During her time at the Travis County DA's office, she served as chief of the Critical Incident Unit, investigating and prosecuting cases involving use of force by police officers. Laurie presented over 75 cases involving officers' use of force to grand juries for their review of criminal charges. We represent 8 Austin police officers who responded to the protest to protect the citizens of Austin, the city itself, the peaceful protesters, and officers from violent and dangerous conduct. We are the attorneys for officers On, Cast, Felton, Fisher, Gilbertson, Lehman, Lomestead, and Siegel. Their indictments relate to the use of department-issued beanbag shotguns to impact those persons who were committing violent acts like throwing rocks or other items. These incidents occurred during the summer of 2020 during the previous Travis County DA's office administration. Officers were requested to support other officers in crowd control, and these officers, they have a duty to respond to threats, to preserve the peace, and protect lives and property.
On May 26, 2020, protests erupted in Minneapolis, Minnesota as a result of the in-custody death of George Floyd. Video footage of the tragic event quickly went viral, and an unprecedented wave of protests and civil unrest began flowing across the United States. Protests soon began in Austin relating to the death of George Floyd and Mike Ramos. Starting on May 30th, the Austin Police Department was forced to issue a citywide request for assistance, which means Austin police officers were asked to report to duty. It is undisputed that many protesters committed no violence whatsoever during the protests. It is equally undisputed that a significant number of protesters did commit violent acts during the protests. Rioters in Austin threw rocks, bricks, eggs, frozen water bottles, fireworks, smoke grenades, baseballs, and golf balls at Austin Police Department officers. Simply, it was a dangerous situation, and our clients were instructed to deploy beanbag rounds at people who were committing violent acts. The use of force is necessary for law enforcement when peaceful protests turn into riots. Less lethal weapons are more commonly used today as they target individuals with pain to change behavior and gain compliance. The use of a shotgun beanbag is a common technique across the country and both legal and within policy in Austin. Beanbag rounds are a type of impact projectile that is intended to gain compliance by causing localized pain, similar to a baton strike or punch. It is a better alternative to a baton or nightstick because it can be employed at a longer distance. Statistics tell you that subjects are rarely incapacitated after one round, and most require multiple rounds. The rounds are specifically designed to cover crowd control situations in a riot.
The use of the beanbag rounds ended up being the focal point in these cases. These less lethal weapons are explicitly designed and employed to incapacitate an individual while minimizing injury. However, we understand that the beanbag rounds issued to our clients were unknowingly defective. We've heard that they were expired and that the rounds did not perform in their manner of their intended use. Simply, these rounds, they're not designed to cause serious bodily injury or death. However, we've seen some injuries that are significantly different than what was expected, and we also found out that the accuracy of these rounds is significantly affected. As a result of the performance of these beanbag rounds that were issued to our officers, the Austin Police Department policy was changed and additional suggestions have been made to ensure that beanbag rounds perform consistently with their intended use. For example, rounds need to be accounted for, they're going to have them clearly marked, but most importantly, they're going to be checked for expiration dates. We know that the law reflects the needs of society, and our society is just going to have to decide what's going to be acceptable and what's reasonable or not. And we expect that these decisions will play out both in the courtroom by jurors in these cases, as well as by the ballot box by voters. Further, we know that these officers acted accordingly to how they were trained, how they were instructed on the scene, using department-issued equipment both according to the law and the policy. You know, the unintended injuries during the demonstrations are tragic. We hate that people got hurt. However, we do believe that the actions of our clients were reasonable under the facts and justified under the law. We'd also like to note, in response to the indictments, both city officials and police held a press conference. And as you already know, APD Chief Joseph Chacon confirmed that he was not aware of any conduct, given the circumstances that the officers were working in, that would rise to the level of a criminal violation by these officers. The city manager also noted that the indictments were not the correct outcome. Governor Abbott issued a statement supporting the Austin police officers, talking about how they defended the Capitol from assault, protected the Austin Police Department headquarters from being overrun, cleared the interstate from being shut down, and disrupted criminal activity in areas across the city. Also noting how many officers were physically attacked while protecting officers. He went on to say that these officers should be praised for their efforts, not prosecuted. The Greater Austin Crime Commission, they also called for DA Garza to step aside and asked for a special prosecutor to be appointed to handle these cases. They pointed to the legitimate questions about evidence, whether it was or was not presented to the grand jury, and to the serious consequences for our community for these cases.